Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. We're here with Ramiro Velasco from GoAvance.com. And Ramiro here is going to talk about Amazon and Latin American e-commerce. He is an AMZ advisor, and he's achieved massive growth for 50-plus seven-figure brands on the Amazon platform. He helps brands break into the Latin American e-commerce markets and tackle all the challenges that foreign brands face. So, Ramiro, glad to be speaking with you.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Rob, for having me, honestly.
Glad to have you. And so what has you excited, energized, turned on, excited to get up in the morning? Just what's your current passion and focus?
All right. So, Mexico. Is that a weird answer?
I guess not. There's weirder places.
I'm Mexican, born and raised, and I live down here, right? I guess born, not so much raised. I kind of lived abroad my whole life, and I come back, right, a couple of years ago, and I'm like, wait a second, and I'm in the e-commerce space already, right? So I'm working at an agency, helping people sell more. And then I start selling in Mexico. I start with retail arbitrage, right? I start buying product at Home Depot and selling it on Amazon and making money off it. I was like, this feels a little bit, but it's working. And over the course of the past 7 years, what I found is slowly but surely, we're getting products in that we couldn't buy before. Right. So like 7 years ago, I came back to Mexico and Amazon selection, barren. Mercado Libre selection, barren. You're looking at back then it wasn't TikTok, it was Instagram, but you're looking at like products that like your friends are buying and stuff that you couldn't get in Mexico. And honestly, just slowly but surely seeing the Mexican market or the Mexican even economic landscape sort of shape up and allow for better opportunities and allow for better consumer experiences and sort of being taken more, I don't want to say seriously, but maybe, seen as a more viable market is just consistently so exciting to me. And it sounds like such a nerdy answer. I should say something fun, like a football team winning or whatever, but this is the kind of person I am. And it's really nice to get that validation that I made the right move to move back down here, right? So that is what's getting me excited.
And if you feel more like talking about being excited about a football team, then you go on a football podcast, right? If we're on a marketing podcast, then we're a bunch of weirdos, and the people that are listening are those that are kind of maybe they're stuck or frustrated or looking to tap into some of your own excitement. And I mean, so much of what we do in life or in business, it's that process of taking something that might be kind of dull and then making it interesting just from your own little just like successes and challenges. And so this is a really fun idea of just kind of being there in this non-US or non-Western world type country where like they're growing and things are developing. And then when you're like one of the first ones there, the idea is that, well, you can get in on all this kind of e-commerce opportunities before everyone else has the chance to ruin it for us. So do you have any fun stories to really give us an idea of what you're all about as far as like growing the e-commerce in Mexico? You said you started with the retail arbitrage. Are you still doing that? Has it grown to something else? Like kind of what's the story here?
Oh my God. Okay. So retail art right now. So if you're I'm on TikTok 24/7, which is really bad, but I'm on TikTok 24/7 and I'm in sort of e-commerce TikTok a little bit. I try to stay away from it. You don't want work to also be like, on your social media, but it happens. And people are just now getting into drop shipping, and people are just now really like, if you think of Amazon where it was like mid 2010s, like maybe 2016, 2017, people were like making money hand over fist, going to what's the word when like an inventory is being liquidated? There's another word for it.
Like I don't know, like a closeout or fire sale. I don't know.
Exactly. You're going to those sales, you're buying the product in bulk, and then you're selling it online. That's what TikTok is right now. And that's what the Mexican sort of market is doing right now, right? So 4 years ago-ish is when I was really doing the retail arbitrage really heavily. And then the pandemic comes and everyone's looking for other sources of income and they start doing it. And suddenly my product had 8 resellers on it. And I was like, you know what? That's not fun anymore. That's, now we're just going to fight over the pricing. So I went to do other stuff. But on one hand, so retail art is really filling out and really giving consumers a better experience, which is, I think, ultimately the value of retail arbitrage for the consumer is one guy selling it at $20 while the other guy's 19, 18. And then you find the spot that it's worth it at the consumer for. But on the other hand, just the constant, I mean, we're talking marketing, right? The current consumer behavior does not lend itself for easy marketing in the country. Now, if you think about this, a lot of consumers are looking for Spanish copy, for example, like something very simple, looking for Spanish targeted ads, and they're seeing everything in English because people are selling through NARF, and that's dropping your conversion rate a little bit, right? But on like more interestingly, I think, is going on Amazon and typing garlic crusher isn't that common yet, right? So right now, it's a lot of brand loyalty. Like, hey, I liked this sports drink. I buy it online now because I get the same price and I get it to my house. It's nice. It's still very, how would I put it? Like 5, 6, 7 years ago, I know you go on Mercado Libre, and there your generic keywords are really doing really well. So understanding sort of this buyer psychology of where people at, why you should really maybe hit them on Instagram, build really nice creatives, and direct them to your Amazon page rather than fighting over PPC on Amazon. This whole strategy of how you're getting to your consumer in a market landscape that is different to what you're used to is so interesting to me, especially because right now it's so skill based. We all of us in marketing think about this like as a game. It's like, how am I getting to my consumer and how am I getting them to click checkout, right? Like what minor changes did I do? On Amazon, we're doing, oh, wait, did I put this one keyword in the one spot in the title that gave me like 2 more clicks that gave me, but then it becomes almost robot, like automated, right? Where it's like, oh, well, I'm using software and like 15 different tools. And whereas in Mexico, you can still play it a lot by feel, which is so fun. So all in all, I'm having a great time. It's like it's like going back in time and just getting to do what you're really good at. So
It sounds like it, like kind of going back to those fun Wild West way days,
yeah.
and then like recapturing the fun of problem solving. And I think that you're onto something here because we all wish that we could just jump forward the past like the difficulties and just say like, oh, I just want a pile of money. But you and I both know, as being like entrepreneurs, business owners, the fun is in that journey, and you don't want it all to be journey, and you don't want to like self-sabotage yourself so that you're always struggling. But there's something about that kind of middle zone sweet spot where you're troubleshooting the system, where there's still something to be figured out, there's still some traffic source, and then yet the game can still be played because as you were saying that after the like late 2010s and all that in America, just the competition became so much, right? And the ads were just too difficult, and all the software and all this automation, it's not fun anymore. But if you can go back in time and then kind of figure out, well, where is there space for me to make this traffic work and make this conversion work and make my copy work and make all my e-commerce flow work, that seems like a lot of fun. And so can you share with us, like, is there specifically like certain like companies you helped, or like industries or categories that like you kind of specialize in? There's something fun in that area?
Yeah, totally. So we specifically targeted to start with companies that we sort of followed the US roadmap in sort of the order in which categories blew up, right? With some exceptions, obviously. We you can't stick too hard to the roadmap, right? But the other criteria that we used was what's really difficult to get into the country. And this is where the logistics expertise starts coming in, right? So sort of the less fun part where you just have to be triangulating with like 50 different people, WhatsApp groups and all these things. But having, for example, cosmetics, we have a couple of cosmetics brands under our belt because you know how hard it is to get cosmetics approved for basically Mexican FDA. It's called COFEPRIS. No one's doing it. So you're looking at Mexico and you're going, hey, actually, none of my competition is here. So I get to go in and pay 20 cents PPC instead of $2 because none of y'all could get in. So we have like the big brands, like your Maybellines or your whatever, like sort of dominating the market. We know that those are always going to be there. Price point, like wise, we're never going to match them. But we have these smaller brands that get to flourish where they don't get to flourish as easily in the US, right? So that's on one hand. On the other hand, general consumer goods, just because of the markup. And what I mean by markup is in Mexico, you'll find us a lot of drop shippers on Amazon. Where what I'll do is I'll live in Mexico. I'll have a Mexican tax ID, everything, to make sure that I'm not getting completely, run over with taxes. But then what I'll do is I'll list your product, and I'll do this en masse. Like I'll, add 10, 15,000 products to my catalog. And when I get an order, I'll order it from the US with a delivery from .com, instead of .com.mx, with a delivery address to the shopper's address. So what I end up doing is I end up paying retail price for the product, but my consumer paid 2x, 3x retail price. Take out the shipping fee, take out 15% by Amazon, you have about a 40% margin on the sale, which is ridiculous because then the Mexican consumer ends up paying like through the nose for these products. And what happens is you get maybe 1 or 2 sales a month from people that really wanted it. Well, I got 15,000 SKUs, so I don't care that I'm selling 1 or 2 a month. Well, we're coming in and we're saying, oh no, like we'll sell your product, we'll bring it down, we'll do everything, and we'll give the consumer a fair experience. Right? So we started hitting or onboarding brands that were really susceptible to these resellers that were it just feels so bad to go in and be like, wait, why is this product $50? It's $15 on Amazon US. And then you see, oh, it's some random person in some part of the country just doing this arbitrage. So that's sort of our strategy, right? Where we've just tried, like, our main focus, and I don't want to really talk about like business model and all these things, but ultimately our main focus is giving the consumer a better experience. We're way cheaper than we in theory could be, and I hate that, but in theory we could be, but not because it's just literally we want to give consumers better experience. Like I'm coming from a very passionate place of I am Mexican. I've been here for 7 years now. It's been so annoying, the online shopping experience, that I'm just like, you know what? Let's try to clean this up, tidy this up a little bit. So that's sort of our philosophy going into it.
I like that. You're tapping into something interesting, that this whole idea of I don't know if you call it like your creed or your mission or like just your values or whatever, but like you kind of have this it kind of sounds cheesy to call it like a higher calling, but you say like, here's the problem we want to solve. And then that sort of sustains you from the long-term frustrations and all the day in and day out. And I mean, I can only imagine the various just like red tape, paperwork, right? You're mentioning about all these things, like dealing with government agencies and dealing with tax IDs and getting things like moved into the country and getting things approved by Mexican FDA. I mean, all these reasons to quit, but then you have this really kind of noble goal that kind of maybe outweighs the tendency to want to quit. And then as far as getting the work done or figuring out the strategy, it's kind of like a video game almost to you, right? You say like, well, where's the opportunity and where's my criteria and where is their promise? And then kind of what's my like trick or what's my tactic of saying like, well, here, this makeup is like 3 times what it should be. Well, we identified that. And then how can we kind of put ourselves in there, but then also like everybody wins except for that one guy that was taking advantage to begin with, right? Like the consumers wins and you win. And then I imagine that it kind of just sort of like develops things, right? It helps to get Amazon kind of more established, kind of like with the retail arbitrage. I know, like, because I used to do that maybe like 10 years ago, and people were so skeptical because I was saying what I was doing and they didn't believe when I'm like, no, I go here to this store and I buy water bottles and I put them on Amazon, and they're like, well, why? And it's like, because the items are in the wrong place. Like there's so many humans, there's so many locations, there's so many items, like they're just all over the country. And like, we're kind of like reshuffling and reorganizing the location so that way it's better optimized. And so is there anything of note as far as like your own like struggles and difficulties? I mean, we already talked about some, I'm sure there's tons, but is there anything that stands out as far as like, did you ever feel like quitting, or did you ever like really fail, or anything interesting along those lines?
All the time. I want to quit every single morning. And I think a lot of us share this feeling where it's mornings are particularly tough because, running a business and everything that has to do with it, it's all delayed gratification, right? And it's all like it's constantly planting seeds and then eventually going, oh, that worked, right? Like, so every single morning, as someone with some of the worst ADHD I've seen in my life, it's very tough to keep this grind up, right? But I think a couple of things. I think the wins always feel really, really good, right? Like every single time we break like a daily sales goal, we're very happy. It's just like, yes, like we're moving in the right direction, right? Like and also honestly there's some selfishness involved with it. Like I'm reaching out, like I just started this, we're reaching out to brands that I've always wanted to consume. I'm being like, hey, like I have this business, blah 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 blah, but really it's like I want your product, like I want to, I want to have access to it because we're so used to not having it. So for example, in Mexico right now, if you try to get supplements, like general nutritional supplements, there's very little choice. And there's very little choice because of all the red tape that goes around, like you said, government agencies and all these things. We've just finished building out the process to be able to get supplements into the country, right? And that literally came off the back of one of my partners. He's from Connecticut, but he lives down here in Mexico. And he's like, I'm so tired of not being able to get the protein that I want. And I'm like, what if we try to fix that? And it gives you these fun little achievable goals to sort of keep going, right? Where it's like, hey man, guess what? Like I reached out to the brand. He's like, oh, cool. Like I hope we get a response. Who knows if we don't? But that keeping it fun, keeping it like gamified, and keeping it manageable is really how we're getting through this.
It seems like
and
everything about you is based on fun and kind of being giggly,
yeah.
and just like taking yourself just seriously enough, and just enjoying what you do.
Yeah. Look, honestly, I used to have a real bad temper back in like high school and like college. Like I was always mad, and then I think it all came from like some insecurities and some like not knowing where to land and blah blah. And I sort of spent a couple of years of my life like really figuring out what makes me comfortable in my own skin, whether it be the beard or the mustache. I had a mustache recently, or painting my nails, which I'm not going to show on camera because they're really bad right now. Because what I'm finding is the more aligned you are with yourself, the easier things become, the less day-to-day stress you're carrying. Because we talk a lot about like getting rid of distractions, getting rid of anything that's draining your energy. Well, pretending to be someone you're not is like the biggest drain you can have. And it's exhausting. And it makes you double think or double guess your answers and like your stance. So yeah, I'm very passionate about everything that we're doing, or everything that I carry out like in my life. It's like, does it feel right? Does it like sit well with me? Quick example, when we launched, we were actually doing a higher setup fees. We figured, like we got to make some margin on the setup fees to make sure, and it just didn't sit right. It was like, wait, hold on, like we're selling an unproven market, we're selling like all these things, the risk is quite high. And I was like, it doesn't vibe. Like we were getting the sales, but I was like, it doesn't vibe with me. I also clearly very much not a salesman. So we cut those down to costs, like at cost. We're like, look, this to me vibes. And just by being more confident on those calls where I'm like, I know that this is a ridiculously good deal, it helped us grow that much faster because it gives you that confidence to speak about it with love and passion and excitement rather than trying to justify a higher cost, right? So yeah, it like you got to be aligned across the board.
I love it. Self-awareness, self-improvement, and it seems like a lot of it is like what's blocking you, right? And you said like even like there's the kind of the metaphorical blocking of just like not being sure who you're on your own skin, but then there was the setup fees that were blocking you, and I think I can relate to what you're saying a little bit of like going through those tough years, and you don't even realize they were tough years until you looking back of just like becoming a different person and just like letting go of the weird phrases and stories you tell yourself, and even letting go of some friends and family members that maybe were just like negative and bringing you down, and that's kind of painful too, and just coming out the other side of it and just working on yourself daily. And then it seems like whenever I talk to an e-commerce person like yourself, you're all about the KPIs, right? All about the goals and what's the record and how to break the record. And I always find that to be really inspiring and something that we all should be looking into and tapping into, because like I would say the average person just doesn't have goals. And even if they do, they're not obsessed with their goals like e-commerce guys are. And even if they are obsessed, they're not just like trying to always hit them or always just like, looking at them on the daily. So I think that there's a lot to think about as far as the amazing things that you've been tapping into, as far as getting companies established in Amazon and finding the gap in the marketplace and making it all fun and getting all the work done, and then having enough abundance. Because you mentioned a few times here of like, well, I don't care if this fails, like I'll put my all into this attempt, but I don't care if this fails because I have 15,000 other attempts. And then you go back and look at the data, so that way you know what went wrong if it does fail. So it's all really cool to think about. And so you mentioned a little bit about your company and what you do. And so like, what's the offer? What's the package? What's the solution? And how does someone know if they're a good fit for you and your company?
So, thank you. It's so we have to do that like as sort of an audit, because what we do is we'll get on a call and be like, hey, like, first of all, this has to make sense for you as well, right? So we got to look at what the margins look like, what the costs look like, etc. And then on our end, we have to make sure that we can bring the product in, right? Like if you're like a bullet manufacturer, like, okay, maybe we can't do it. And also like that the market's there, right? Like I don't want you sending over a ton of inventory that's gonna it's tied up capital in a warehouse across the border, and then it's not moving. So we do like a feasibility study right off the bat, and just be like, hey man, like this works, or hey man, this doesn't work, and we'll get excited with you if it does work, or like, hey man, like this is gonna pop, like let's go. So that's one thing. And then the second thing, like I said, is and by the way, this is what it's going to cost on the way in, which, you got to account for your VAT, you got to account for the referral fees, you got to account for potential like PPC. If you want us to manage your PPC, like how much you want to invest, we'll give you like that estimate. And we're generally targeting US margins, right? So like the idea is we want to make sure that you're making the same amount of money in Mexico than in the US. Now, some of the brands that we work with, they'll lower that margin because they're like, no, like we don't need that much margin. And then we break the market that much faster, right? But we first do this whole sort of feasibility study to make sure that we're a good fit for you and you're a good fit for us, right? Or for the market, and then after that, it's literally just a matter of getting stuff down to the country. We sell the product for you and we send you back the cash. Like we take commissions here and there for a couple of things, and the play is volume for us. So again, like we're trying to make sure that you're making at least the same amount of money on margins percentage wise than in the US. If anyone wants to reach out, GoAvance.com, which we made the website, we made the business without knowing how to pronounce it, just because it looked nice, which is such a funny spot to be in. But it's GoAvance, like advance, but without a D, .com. And the hubris of having my Calendly open, anyone can schedule a call with me, we can have a chat. It's like suddenly like my calendar is going crazy. I'm like, oh no, I have like 15 calls today and I don't have a voice.
Oh,
but
no.
That's where we get started. We get started, we figure out like what the cost is going to be on the way in, and we just give you like that estimate and send on product down, send either small parcel or pallet, depending on what the sort of a scope you're looking at is, and we get started under 30 days, most of the time under 2 weeks. Like it's really nice.
Fantastic. Exciting. Well, you're onto something as far as these e-commerce companies that they want to break into this Mexican and Latin American market on Amazon. They're not doing it and they need your help. And anything e-commerce and getting established and dealing with those competitors and the price wars and adjusting the listings and staying compliant. I mean, it's like takes the whole team. And if a company is already super busy, they don't have time to have the team do it, especially someone like you who's like boots on the ground there, who's seen all kinds of things, who can save a company potentially a whole bunch of wasted time. If, like you said, you do the feasibility study and you say like some of those things won't even work there. So I can definitely see the massive value in someone having that conversation. They can get in your Calendly, and you can deal with that controlled chaos of the 15 sales call or 15 calls on your calendar just today. And so that website is GoAvance.com. And so when someone goes to GoAvance.com, is there like a pre-qualifier? Like, should they have already been like selling their SKU for like X amount of time? Should they be doing a certain sales volume, or is it just to have the conversation?
We should have the conversation, honestly. I don't in e-commerce we tend to go by statistics. Like you said, we're all KPI people. And I think it's one of the downsides of having every single bit of data fed to you in Excel spreadsheets 24/7. And sometimes when you put in the work and you'll go in manually and you'll, run a couple market plugins, whatever, you're pulling data, you're like, wait, there is actually a spot here. And does the Mexican consumer really know between two private label products? Do they know between like that are just really established in the US? Probably not. So we can do that. I don't believe in these pre-requirements, but rather let's chat and figure it out and see if we can do it.
I love it. Well, time to chat and figure it out. I go into GoAvance.com. And as we wrap up our conversation here, Ramiro, is there like the number one lesson you think you can leave us with, whether it's in like e-commerce or your own like life journey? What comes to mind if I ask for like a profound number one lesson?
I mean, these will always vary because it depends on your personal experience. For me personally, something that has helped me with profound ADHD and all these things, other than aligning yourself, it's once you've got to that point, put in the work. Sometimes it sucks. Sometimes you just gotta grind out an Excel spreadsheet, and sometimes you just gotta grind out sending 50 emails or like responding or like. But if you can find satisfaction in going, oh, I got through it. If you can get to the end of the day and just be like, yes, like that was good, instead of, oh, that sucked, you're golden. Like that's the best setup I can think of.
Fantastic. It sounds like a 3-step process to me, right? Step 1, find that alignment. Step 2, do the work. And then step 3, find that satisfaction, even though it does suck sometimes, but that's adulting, that's living. And sometimes you make that Excel spreadsheet and then you say, okay, cool, it was done. All right, I made a bunch of money, or I'm satisfied with a job well done. Sometimes we have to play those mind tricks on ourselves in order to get to the finish line. And, that's just how it is sometimes, but don't give up. Definitely, instead of giving up, how about this? Go to GoAvance.com. That's GoAvance.com. Go there, schedule your super fun call with Ramiro, and just talk about those possibilities. See what potential there is in your future when you go to GoAvance.com. We will see you there. Thank you very much, Ramiro, for blowing our minds, having some fun, giving us some ideas. Was there one last thing? Look, like you have one last thing to say.
I was gonna say thank you for having me on. Honestly, this was such a nice time. No, thank you. Sorry if I hogged the mic a little bit, but I really appreciate you having me on, Rob.
It is your show. I am grateful that you were here. So hog all you want.
Thank you.